the biggest problem with the twin turbo kit in its design was that one of the turbos was absolutely way too low, and then in turn there was no room underneath that turbo because the radiator was flat, which has its many other problems as well with cooling and efficiency and all those many different things.
All right, so here's the twin turbo setup. So really based on the fact that the turbos were sitting down so low, we weren't able to scavenge that oil out, right? We had an oil pump, a nice Mazda one, but it didn't pull it out fast enough. And so there was some oil seepage based on how that was set up. You can definitely still make this work. There's nothing wrong with the twin turbo setup, but it's a lot more fabrication, dialing in than I would like to do. And so based on one of my goals is to have this setup serviceable. It just wasn't something that I wanted to get into. So that is the reason why we're moving to a single setup. I think it's going to be more serviceable. I think it is going to bring about the same power. I'm not too concerned with power. I think this setup was probably a little overkill for the chassis in general. I think we're going to still, even with the single setup, we're going to fight traction. I think that's going to be a continuous thing that we're going to fight. Heat management is going to still be another thing that we're going to fight. You might say that, okay, well, with a twin turbo setup, you're going to spool a lot faster. You're right. But there was a segment that we talked with on the channel with Sean, based on Garrett's new technology with the G45 1350, the spooling is so much faster on those. And so I think it's going to be comparable. It's not going to be the same. I mean, you can't beat a twin turbo setup when it comes to spooling. But again, it's going to be the same things that we're going to have to dial in, which is going to be traction, heat management, same things. So I would rather do it on a single setup. I like the idea of doing its own custom turbo kit that fits the car. And to be honest with you guys, the way that the manifolds had the turbos kind of unevenly cockeyed or uneven just bothered my OCD as well. So that was another reason as well. Serviceability in the perspective of the headers. These headers, you would really have to lift up the car in order to get at the spark plugs. There just wasn't any, like the way that it was made, there just wasn't any leniency for that. Overall, it's going to make working on the FD a lot easier. I think it's going to be a lot more reliable in the sense of less components that we have to really dial in, or room for error, that sort of thing. So that's really my main reason for switching from the twin setup to the single setup. And now what we'll do is we're going to switch over. I met with Sean Christensen from DRSC, and we're going to go through the single turbo setup that we're going to put on the FD. All right, guys, we're back to the car. We're here with Sean today, and we want to go over the new setup that is happening with the RX-7. So, Sean, thank you again for all the time and effort that you guys have put into this. We moved from the twin turbo setup, and now we have kind of everything somewhat laid out outside of the fabrication, of course, and the real grunt hours that goes into it, but we have everything kind of laid out. Sean, just tell me a couple things, for the simplicity reason. Obviously, one of the major goals for this car is to keep it simple and be able to service it. And kind of moving from the twin turbos, how do we achieve that goal?
Yes, the twin turbos were definitely difficult. The way the car came, the way Mohammed purchased it, it had a twin turbo kit. Unfortunately, the way it was designed, it was really hard to work on. You had to more or less either remove the downpipes or remove the headers to even change the spark plugs. And essentially what that really inhibited Mohammed from doing is doing things on his own. Not that he doesn't have the capability, but it time. It takes a lot of time to do those type of things, whereas now a set of spark plugs should just be, you know, the same as any other Chevy truck out there. And so with going to the single turbo, it just simplifies the whole setup. The biggest problem with the twin turbo kit in its design was that one of the turbos was absolutely way too low, and then in turn there was no room underneath that turbo because the radiator was flat, which has its many other problems as well with cooling and efficiency and all those many different things. And so we couldn't even put any sort of accumulator tank below the turbos. There just wasn't any room. We did attempt to resolve the issue with a scavenge pump, a really nice one that may be. It just was not enough for the amount of oil that was flowing. And unfortunately, how low that other turbo was, it definitely, based on what we've been seeing, is it was damaged, and we were never going to fix the problem.
Yeah, and I mean, even like people who I know who have figured it out, a big thing is always that I knew that I was going to continue to battle was the oiling. And so it was a given point where I saw one of my friends had modified the housing, I think it was the cold side of the turbo or the hot side, I can't remember. But at that point I was just like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm not going to deal with that, because I just feel like it's going to be an ongoing issue that I would try to catch and just nip it in the bud now.
Yep. And so overall, you know, Mohammed's goal has been, you know, anything over 1,000 is acceptable. And, you know, I actually had this G45 1350 turbo from Garrett. Brand new, some modification, which honestly doesn't really inhibit us all from doing the things that we need to do. And so he actually got a really sweet deal on this. And so with that being said, what's really nice about this turbo is it's going to get his goal accomplished, but it's also going to perform very well. It's definitely going to be a driver's turbo in regards to the horsepower that you want. It's going to spool up really fast. It's still going to have all the breath that's needed to give this V8 engine the power it needs. And so some of our challenges that we still have, even with this build, is fitting everything in there. Ideally, we'd like to have a 4-inch downpipe, or at least most of the downpipe 4-inch, enough to help with spool and the things that, it's not necessarily that a 4-inch downpipe is required to get his horsepower goal, but what a 4-inch downpipe is going to accomplish is the spool time. The turbos will spool faster the bigger the downpipe is. It just allows that air to escape. Even if it has to be sized down at some point, it doesn't actually inhibit performance at all. Just having that X amount of length in the downpipe is a huge benefit over going with a smaller downpipe.
Is there going to be a lot of turbo lag with this setup versus the twin? I know that's going to be a common thing that people
so that's a good question. Yeah. So with your twin turbo setup, you had very large turbos. Like in reality, the turbos that he had previously had would have probably been good for 2,000 horsepower. Jeez. So in turn, there would have been a fair amount of lag. On top of it, they are journal bearing turbos. Correct. And they are inherently just slower. This is the newest technology from Garrett. It's a dual bar bearing. Pretty much everything that they have. What we've been seeing, I have this actually a larger turbo on a smaller displacement engine, and we're still making full boost by, like I would say, if in regards to, it's kind of relative. So let's say we'll make like 20 pounds by 4,500 on a 6-cylinder with a G45 1500. This is a G45 1350. That other car still makes 32 pounds before 5,000 RPMs. Right. And so it actually really spools up really nicely. This is going to spool even faster because he's got almost double the displacement as the 6-cylinder I was just talking to you about. So I really do feel like we're going to have a very usable power range for an engine that doesn't necessarily rev super high, but it's still going to be enjoyable.
Yep, for sure.
Some of the other challenges that we have here is you know, with kind of redesigning everything, we want to maximize cooling, and with cooling, in order to cool things, you definitely need a bigger size of things. Our first struggle was getting the proper intercooler. The best solution that we came up with is actually what we have here is 2 750 horsepower rated Garrett cores welded together with custom intakes in order to accomplish the cooling efficiency of the engine in which we want. Since our goal is, you know, somewhere between that 1,000 and 1,200 horsepower range, this 1,500 horsepower capable intercooler is going to be perfect. And when you do want to be sized above your goals, that's going to give you longevity. It's just going to give you that consistency and less likely for it to be heat soaked, and so that he can continue to hit that fun pedal as much as he desires. So with that being said, we then went with the Chase Bay radiator setup. You know, it's a nice thick intercooler. You know, it's thicker, but the actual width and the height is very practical for the application. We will have to modify it a little bit just to push it further forward to give us the most amount of space for the single turbo setup. We also are determining if we're going to put the AC condenser between the intercooler and the radiator. We have some other options that we're going to investigate first. Potentially a water to Freon exchanger that we actually have a lot of room in the in the driver's compartment. We went with a vintage air setup, and there's actually a good, you know, 1 foot by 1 foot space that could be utilized for something like that.
Sure.
And so as we push everything forward and we maximize the space, that will determine if we need to go that path, if we need that extra. Roughly 1 inch is what we have to take up in order to put the front condenser.
Sure.
And but we won't know that until we have the intercooler perfectly in place. We had Mohammed grab the front bumper that he desired. That way we could modify it. We've had to cut at least so far about 2 inches off of it to maximize how much space we have. We are still trying to dial in all of that balance between everything. These fans are notably thicker than a slimline fan, but with slimline fan, you tend to not have as much CFM that you would like to for this type of setup. And with such a tight engine bay and all around engine heat, having a proper cooling system is very important. We will be getting an oil cooler. It's most likely going to replace the location of where this old scavenge pump was and utilize the space on the FD bumper, just like factory RX-7s have. Same scenario. Why we want to go that route is it's just going to allow sustainability and longevity of the motor and consistency across the board.
Yep. The other thing I wanted to touch on that we replaced was the electronic throttle body. So that will help you more accurately during the tuning process?
So with electric drive-by-wire, we should say.
Drive-by-wire.
That actually comes down to a lot of creature comforts. Just what we can do with the drive-by-wire is, the idle control is far superior versus the factory LS 4-wire stepper motor. It's less noisy, you know, depending on how you set everything up. The couple other fun things that we can do is if Mohammed wanted to lower the boost a little bit and take it around the road course, he can have a spirited drive with it rev matching for him, and you know, those creature comforts that, you know, a lot of drivers like, but it isn't always as executable for someone that doesn't have drive-by-wire. So technically speaking, we can set up cruise control for him as well. which, you know, the factory cruise control is long gone in this car, and he could have that retained. The car does have the ability to do flex fuel, so he'll be able to take a road trip if he feels confident enough in it. Maybe a rally, I don't know. But, you know, we'll see how everything progresses, and, you know, and there are still some unknowns that, you know, we didn't assemble the motor and Mohammed didn't assemble it either. So I think we're all hoping for the best on that one. And it does seem to still be pretty good and healthy. And we did learn a few things through our trials and tribulations, that perhaps there was some mistiming that unfortunately happened during the tuning process last time. It only made about 700 horsepower at a pretty high horsepower, or a pretty high boost pressure for what it made, and in turn it was just mistimed by the previous owner. So not in relation to the mechanical timing. So the LSs, they don't actually have a trigger mark, and when we went to time the motor, unfortunately, it was off about 8 degrees. So that's a considerable amount of horsepower gain right there.
Yeah. I mean, that's good for us.
Yes.
So,
other than that, you know, the things that we're going to accomplish next is get this intercooler solidly mounted. We will need to end up creating a bash bar for the front end of the car for safety reasons and for some mounting stuff. And then once we have all of that, we can then in turn start making the piping. And honestly, it's going to accelerate really fast once we get to that piping state. The turbo itself will be solidly mounted to the chassis, and we'll most likely have a slip collector for the headers, and then we're going to also do a cold air intake. So all around, ideally, the engine should be breathing fresh, cool air, should be receiving the amount of cooling it needs in order to keep not only the charge air cool, but to keep the engine coolant and oil temperatures at bay.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you, Sean.
If you stuck around this long, you heard me ramble, thank you. I wanted to get the turbo kit apart so that you guys can see it. Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate you guys checking out the video. And the next video, we will probably sit down again with Sean and go over the new setup and what we're switching over.